Discover Central Illinois.
Thanks for joining us for Discover Central Illinois on this Friday from Monticello.
That's right. We're going to take you all around Piatt County and show you why it's a great place to visit. We're going to do that in a few minutes, but first, we're going to go back into the studio with WAND's Alyssa Patrick with your day's top stories.
Okay, Dawn-Chan, thank you so much. Happening right now, Central Illinois residents are wrapping their arms around the Mowequa community after that deadly crash on US 51 this week. Flowers are lining the Central A&M football field in tribute of the students. Now, the students that were involved with the crash, that is. Now, the Sangamon County coroner says a second student, 15-year-old Keegan Verdon, died this afternoon at St. John's Hospital in Springfield. Last night, the St. Louis City Medical Examiner confirmed that Connor Rowcliffe, the 16-year-old driver, also died from injuries sustained in the crash. 2 passengers, also students, remained hospitalized tonight. Now, the community continues to rally around the students, organizing fundraisers to help the families impacted by the crash. First National Bank of Assumption set up accounts to help the Rowcliffe family and the family of another teen hurt in that crash. In other news, a 350-mile journey, almost 100 cyclists are traveling from Alton to Chicago this weekend. They're fundraising for the organization Cops Concerns of Police Survivors. They have a crisis team to immediately assist families when an officer is killed in the line of duty. This year, cyclists have raised $200,000 to support the organization. Now, we all know inflation is continuing to take a toll on families across the nation. The cost of housing, electricity, and food are all up. An economics professor at Millikan University says it's important to understand the factors driving inflation so we can make the best choices with our money.
We can, of course, include the Russia-Ukraine war that is also going right now. That is part of it. And then we have the supply chain bottlenecks as well. It is our responsibility that if we really want to understand what is going on in the economy, we have to do our own due diligence. Okay, you cannot just rely on somebody.
Dr. Osai suggests checking resources like Market Watch or the Federal Reserve instead of relying on information from politicians. Well, happening now, it's been a cloudy end of the week. Jim Kosick joins us live from Monticello. Jim, you staying dry out there?
Staying dry, although I did want a rainstorm to roll on through. Not in the offing here. Matter of fact, there are some holes in the clouds, so the shades are out. Much like we're seeing in downtown Decatur, the roads are drying off right now, thanks to our Flooring America camera network. You can check that out right there. Now, oh boy, there's still wet weather to be had, though, so as we go through the course of the next several hours this evening into tonight, even though the coverage area has clearly diminished over the last couple of hours, there's still going to be a hit-miss shower thunderstorm on the prowl into the wee hours of a Saturday morning before we tend to dry things out. And the humidity is king and queen. Look at how many locations are topping in excess of 70 degrees for the dew points to make it absolutely atrocious outside. And, well, despite the holes in the clouds for the time being, most areas still feeling like the 70s as opposed to the 80s. But when that changes, I'll have coming up live from Monticello in just a little bit from now. Sean and Dawn?
Well, there's no place like home, Jim, until you head to Holly's Country Kitchen. It's not just a restaurant, it's a place for the community.
That's right, and breakfast, lunch, and dinner, of course. But the main difference at Holly's actually is that the one-of-a-kind restaurant treats you like family. Owner Holly Miller says her restaurant is more than just a place to eat. It's where community members come to connect and see a whole new meaning to comfort food.
I know who drinks regular, who drinks decaf, who gets cream, who gets water, who gets sweet tea. I know what their orders are every day. It's very important for me. And another aspect is also the farm community. Monticello is very rich in farmland, and it's very important to make sure that we serve that community.
Holly also provides meals to farmers while they're out on the job. They're also known for catering from birthdays, weddings, take and bake meals, and unique local vendors throughout the shop.
And after dinner, why not check out a show at the theater? Monticello Theater Association offers a variety of shows throughout the year to appeal to just about every audience and their taste. During the summer, they like to change their focus to inspire future generations of actors with their youth programs. Right now, 6th graders through high school graduates warming up their singing and practicing their dancing in preparation for Disney's The Beauty and the Beast opening night.
These kids have worked so hard to put on this particular show, so that's one reason you should come out. We have some kids from other areas that come and do just our show, so that's a reason to pull people from other areas.
You can catch Disney's Beauty and the Beast for yourself July 22nd through the 24th, again the 28th through the 30th. For show times or to purchase tickets, go to Monticello Theater Association website or their Facebook page. Catching a ride on the railway, the ride that will take you back in history right in Piatt County as we continue to discover Central Illinois.
Welcome back as we discover Piatt County. It's time to say all aboard. The Monticello Railway is a throwback to history, but with a modern twist.
WAD Sophia Espinoza takes us for a ride.
Gather your family and find your friends. It's time to step into fun. All are boarded on this train, and your next one-of-a-kind adventure has left the station.
It's rare in the Midwest even to have such a railroad museum and such one that offers a unique ride where you can go through the woods and through the prairie.
And it's the glances at the woods and prairies that even kids like to take in.
Tell me, what is your favorite part of riding the train here in Monticello?
Probably to get to see the views.
The Monticello Railway Museum is your round-trip ticket back in time.
You know, we're trying to show the experience of riding the train in the 40s or 50s when railroads were at their heyday, and they were how people got around in central Illinois.
And this fun history lesson comes with a trip around town.
And the best part of the train ride is all you have to do is get on at the museum. And in a short train ride, you're here, all the way in downtown Monticello.
People can get off and go have lunch and ride another train back. And, you know, just make a day out of it.
And after a quick stop downtown, it's all aboard again.
Look at all those different tracks.
And while riding the tracks, nothing is off limits.
A lot of the families like things because you can actually touch things, you know, like you can pound on our equipment and it's not going to hurt it.
A hands-on experience packaged with quality time with your loved ones.
I like seeing friends and family. They get to have fun along with me.
And that fun is written on the face of every guest.
Just to see the smiling faces on the train is what keeps me going.
In Monticello, Sofia Espinosa, WAND News.
Fun for all ages. In fact, check out the museum where you can learn more about railroad history and see some artifacts up close.
All you have to do is go to WANDTV.com. Well, it's heating up here in Monticello to 2,000 degrees to be exact, where you can find one local artist slaving away with some glass creations as we continue to discover Central Illinois from Piatt County.
I beg to differ. Temps are in the 70s and 80s, Dawn. But if you're going to be outside this weekend cutting the lawn, ooh, big change in the temperature. I'll have that coming up in a bit from now.
All right, most people think as art of an art gallery like clay and canvases and things like that. But here in Monticello, there's a very different type of exhibit.
Turn up the heat. Who knew a piece of glass in 2,000 degrees could create something so incredible, so awesome? WAD Sierra Rucker takes us to Prairie Fire Glass Gallery to get a closer look.
Well, I'm a workaholic with a very short attention span, so pretty much anything I can make with glass, I'm going to make.
Jim Downey says he is Prairie Fire Glass and quickly fell in love with the art of glass blowing.
I studied art in college, but just stumbled into glass blowing classes when I was in my early 40s over at the U of I and absolutely fell in love with it.
Downey says back in the early 70s, an undergrad degree in fine arts wasn't highly supported, causing him to get a corporate job to help raise his family. But now, Downey says he finally gets to do something he loves.
Honestly, I'm like a little kid. It's like melting stuff and playing with colors. That's where I have the fun. So from Christmas ornaments and garden ornaments and paperweights, vases, bowls, all kinds of custom stuff.
The list goes on, but how does glass blowing actually work? Downey showed his studio where the magic happens. Under 2,000 degree heat.
Glass out this is the furnace. Everything starts as blue glass. That's what 2,000 degrees is. No, there's specific glass. There's lots of different glass chemistries, so you got to be very specific about the base glass and the colors that you use.
Celebrating 20 years of business, Downey says it's the joy from his customers that kept him working.
I make things that other people like, that bring them joy, that it's like, okay, I have to do this. It's absolutely amazing. I get people who make the day trip down from the Chicago suburbs. I had somebody come up from Belleville around St. Louis. And when people come in, I ask them, what brings you to Monticello? And they say, you. So.
In Monticello, Sierra Rucker, WAND News.
You can find more items from artwork, from other local artists, from specialized jewelry to memorial pieces. Donnie says there's something for everyone to make at Prairie Fire Glass, your next stop in Monticello. All right, another stop to add to your list is the Zemer Gallery. Most of the artwork in this gallery is from local artist Larry Zemer. His wife, Carol, says he is so inspired that some of his pieces only took a day to complete. His family spent many years on the road, so Larry sold paintings so that they could, when they traveled, so they could keep their family afloat. And since Larry's passing in 2018, Carol has been overseeing the gallery. People still come in today asking to purchase some of Larry's stunning art.
The reason he got into watercolor, his art teacher wouldn't let him do it, and he always wanted to do that.
All right, well, hours of operation for the Zemer Gallery, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
And a local retiree is using his free time of photography to highlight men of Monticello. Long enjoyed photography, says it's a passion. Started in late April, taking photos of a diverse group of men in their natural environments, showcasing their natural talents and diversity with his own artistic style of black and white environmental portraits.
This is a great legacy to pass on to their children, and a formal portrait and part of their community.
Nichols previously wrote a book featuring the stories of 50 veterans in the area. He believes it's important to capture the history of his community through art and literature so it will live on for years to come.
Hey, a little bit of a break in the action in terms of heat today due to the clouds. Well, more of them than sunshine and humidity, but I'm staying hydrated. How about you? Fear not, I'll get that later. Now, talk about staying hydrated. Check this out. If you're headed to St. Louis, you're a Cardinals fan, you're going to see the game, man, it is going to be brutal out there. Temperatures running on into the 90s, but quite the difference. It's a late game at Wrigley with the Mets in town. Temps in the 70s, maybe a shower depending on how late the game goes, but dress appropriately for that one. It's actually still going to be humid regardless. And oh, by the way, if you have a nighttime pic of Wrigley, send it to me. Jim.Kosick@WANDTV.com. We'll get you settled in. Look at that backdrop for South Shores, Lake Decatur. Yeah, that's our Roto-Rooter tower camera. Not overcast, but certainly our fair share of clouds, and temperatures running more 70s as opposed to the 80s due to the rain that we had earlier on. Now, the coverage to the rain has certainly dwindled, as you could see on our latest Doppler radar. Most of the thunderstorm activity, it's not much, headed away from the panhandle of Ford County on in through Iroquois, and you can see the movement in a northwest to southeast fashion. Just some hit-miss showers elsewhere that will continue to be on the wane as we go through the next several hours this evening into the overnight, the early part of Saturday morning. Looks like some pockets of dry air moving on in from Iowa, but be careful, because I just mentioned there's still going to be a redevelopment out across the Wisconsin-Illinois line that'll be able to drop in a little bit later on tonight. It's not going to be much, but there's still that spotty shower thunderstorm till about, say, 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. Then look at the expanse of dry air over the high plains. My goodness, that's our Saturday right there. But you saw a little bit of action in Kansas, west of Wichita. That may encompass a few areas, and we'll watch that on our latest Futurecast. So again, take note of what's happening out and about during the course of this evening. Not a whole lot happening for the time being, but then there's going to be a little bit of an uptick as we go through time, and then a downplay again during the early part of our Saturday morning. Look at that right there, man. If you've got outdoor plans, take advantage of them. Sure, Saturday starts off mostly cloudy, but then the sun comes back. There could be a stray late-day thunderstorm tomorrow, but most of the action is going to be Saturday night and during the course of Sunday. That's the wettest time frame, and while the heaviest of the rain may bypass us south of Interstate 72, or at least most of Interstate 72 southbound, as you could see on our raincast, it's still going to be wet most locations, and that is beneficial rain for our Sunday time frame. So, reason enough to take advantage of Saturday when the sun is out. It's going to be a humid day, to say the least. Forecast for you: 72 degrees, and that's the starting point tomorrow morning. Again, the shower, albeit gusty, and thunder shower will be on the wane in terms of coverage area. And after a damp start tomorrow, most of it's going to be rain-free, but boy, are we burning it up big time. We'll head toward 91 degrees as we roll on into the afternoon hours. Nowhere close to a record. That's up in the neighborhood of 104 for crying out loud. But even the nighttime hours are going to be sultry. But take note of the dip in the temperature on Sunday. Now, when it's not raining, we're close to 80 degrees. When it is raining, you're closer to 70, much like today. So today's kind of like a carbon copy to what we're going to deal with on Sunday. But again, heaviest of the rain, mostly south of Interstate 72. Mostly a break of the action on Monday. That's your transition. Could be a spotty afternoon shower redeveloping, but then the heat is back. A storm system will run by to our north Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. The question mark is whether or not the cluster of storms associated with that storm system could drop this far south. That's something that we'll keep tabs on over the next couple of days. Otherwise, we're still above average. The average high this time of year being 85 degrees, and that's, well, outside of Sunday dawn, that's the only time frame that's going to be on the cool side.
All right, thanks, Jim. It's time for another WA&D fun fact. President Abraham Lincoln practiced law in the 8th Judicial Circuit Court, which includes Piatt County. In July of 1858, actions taken by Lincoln in Piatt County courts played a significant role in the planning of what became known as the Lincoln-Douglas debates. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. We're going to go back in time now to the 1850s, and one place to give you a real perspective of that time period is the Bryant Cottage site in Bement.
Yes, this site preserves the home of Francis Bryant and his family from 1856. One of the coolest pieces of history there, Abraham Lincoln and Stephen Douglas met here as they were running for the 1858 Senate race. In that home, they planned what would become known as the famous Lincoln-Douglas debates. The site offers an inside look at the middle class from that time, from furniture to flooring, even cooking.
They'll see a lot of furniture pieces that are from the time period, from that 1850s to the 1880s, which is the time period the family lived here in the home. A lot of our furniture pieces are actually owned by the Bryant family. So they'll get to see a lot of what life would have looked like at the time.
Another fun fact, Marilyn Monroe visited the home in 1955. Bryant Cottage Historic Site also has a garden and is located right in the heart of Bement.
People take care of each other here in Monticello, and a place of shelter in a time of crisis, the Willow Tree Mission. It works to combat domestic violence. They offer support to those in crisis situations beyond to start a better life. Through their resale shops, they're able to fund services for emergency long-term housing, job placement service, food assistance, as well as counseling.
Even though we're a small rural county, we still find that we have a lot of domestic abuse. It doesn't discriminate, men and women, young and old. There is always going to be this need, and so we want to be a place where they can come and find some help and some refuge and get back up on their feet again and move forward.
They are looking for volunteers to help move renovations along at their new location on the square, as well as with day-to-day operations. You can sign up to volunteer or donate at willowtreemissions.org.
All right, we have been out here in Monticello and downtown since noon. My hair has not held up, but now the sun's peeking up and it's getting hot. Jim is going to have another sneak peek at your forecast coming up next.
Okay. Well, we've hoped we've helped you discover Central Illinois from Monticello on this Friday.
That's right. All of Piatt County has a lot of different neat things to offer, including wonderful outdoor spaces between Allerton, even here in this Rotary Park in downtown. We've seen a multitude of wildlife here, including a very hungry squirrel.
It's friendly.
It's been one of those weird days, you know. I mean, it rains for a little bit.
Absolutely, back and forth. And while the coverage area to wet weather isn't going to be all that terrific for the remainder of this evening into the overnight, it's still going to be spotty and around in a few neighborhoods. Nothing that's going to help alleviate the drought, though. But Sunday, that's your day to get soaking wet.
Yep.
All right.
When that sun pokes out, you really feel it heating up. But
and
everybody's been so kind.
Yes, and I have to agree with the mayor. The people are the best part of Monticello. Thanks
Good
for
night.
having us. Good night.